Adapted PE programs are those that have the same objectives as general PE but involve adjustments in the regular program to meet the needs and abilities of students with disabilities. An example would be soccer. You may have to use a larger ball. You may have to extend the sidelines. You may have to adjust the rules. Basketball, you could actually have a game without playing defense. Softball, you would have to use a tee. Or you could have no strike baseball, where until the child or the student makes contact with the ball, you just continue to play. Some examples, as I just gave, include modifying equipment, modifying the rules of the game, or providing peer assistance. You may also have to modify the environment, which could be the field, the court, making it larger, smaller, adding cones, adding colors for the child to see. The purpose of the modification is to allow the child to be included in the general PE class with peers who do not have disabilities to the greatest extent possible. So no longer are we having the child stand on the sideline or sit on the sideline in the wheelchair being the scorekeeper or keeping the time, but we're including this child with disabilities in school PE and in sports programs. Community sports programs. Well, in 1948 was the first organized sporting event for the people with disabilities. It came from Dr. Ludwig Gutmann. He incorporated wheelchair sports into rehabilitation of war veterans. It wasn't until then again in 1973, with the Rehabilitation Act, that passed prohibited discrimination in recreational programs on the basis of disability. So if a child or an athlete had a disability, they could not be discriminated against and not included in any type of recreational program based upon whatever their disability was. Then, the American Disabilities Act of 1990 opened the doors for non-discriminatory participation of individuals with disabilities in all aspects of public life, including recreational activities. There still remain some barriers in some schools and some communities. Some of the problems are the number of children with disabilities in some areas may be limited to 1 or 2, so they have not developed programs. Programs may be too far for people to get involved with or participate in. So that's where local programs need to continue to grow. Help with schools, rec centers, and maybe YMCAs will definitely help with this situation. And I'll talk about that a little bit more shortly. Options for participations, or for participants, really there's 2 choices. 1, children can be included in activities, or they can go with more specialized sports programs with children with disabilities. So for example, if a child wants to join a Challenger Baseball League, he will be included possibly in the regular non-disabled setting with other students, or he may go with a more specific sports program if he's in a wheelchair and start learning the basic skills of wheelchair basketball, where every child there has a disability. And it's a very sport-specific and disability-specific program. More programs are taking place throughout community centers, parks, and recreational centers. For example, there's adapted swimming. There's adapted sports program. Again, I named a couple. For example, some basketball programs. There's some tennis programs out there. There are softball, baseball programs. More adapted playgrounds are being built, where there's ramps, where there's lower bars, where there's lower rings, where more of the disabled children can reach. There's wheelchair accessible playgrounds. There's ball ramps for bowling alleys for the disabled student to participate in. Community sports programs really start nationwide or even internationally. And there's many national organizations, which I will list at the end of this movie here, but many of them do have local affiliates. And it's important that families look into the local settings to get invested interest from their child or from the student. Many are under one direction of the United States Olympic Committee, so you can definitely find some information with the Olympic Committee to find out in your area where different sports programs are. Certain organizations address specific disabilities and others are more sport specific. So you may have specific disabilities doing just certain sporting activities. Or there are some organizations that are very sport specific. For example, wheelchair basketball, wheelchair tennis, that gear towards training the child for those skills, so they can continue to grow through that sport. Athletes with disabilities are grouped according to functional skill rather than they used to be by medical diagnosis. This way, athletes can be grouped according to really where their ability and their skill level is, where in past they would be grouped in their medical diagnosis. Well, we all know, if we've seen the Paralympics or even some of the Special Olympics, where some disabilities, depending on where they are on that disability spectrum, their skills may be a lot higher than somebody with the same medical diagnosis. So they definitely have changed that to be a little bit more competitive and challenging.